I will give a big picture of qualitative research and key concepts that can help you to determine your project or maybe your application for grants. Yeah, it's just an overview in this short time, right? So I will just focus on 3 questions. So what is qualitative research? Why qualitative research should be conducted? How qualitative research can be conducted, right? So maybe if you want to ask question, I prefer actually if you can interrupt within and don't let me talk towards until the end. But then if I want me to finish first, it's all right. But if you think that you want to ask in between, I don't mind. Okay. So what is qualitative research? It is a multi-method in focus involving an interpretive, naturalistic approach to its subject matter. It is also study things in their natural setting, attempting to make sense of or interpret phenomena in terms of meaning people bring to them. Qualitative research also concerned with establishing answers to the why and how of the phenomenon in question. Unlike quantitative, it's more towards what question. In qualitative research, often defined as being subjective, not objective, and findings are gathered in written format as opposed to numerical. So normally, qualitative research focuses on generating meaning and understanding them through rich description. So the collection, analysis, interpretation of comprehensive narrative and visual data, which is non-numerical, to gain insight into the particular phenomenon of interest. So this is what is qualitative is all about. Right? So let us see the differences between qualitative and quantitative in briefly, so that we understand, and later we can decide whether we want to use, if we want to focus on our study in just qualitative 100% or just quantitative, or maybe mixed method, right? So in terms of the focus, the qualitative research is related to quality or meaning of experience. But the quantitative, in contrast, focus on the quantity, frequency, and magnitude, where normally describe about the population and more on measurable factors. And qualitative describe individuals or nature of humans' experience and belief. In terms of philosophical roots, right? Qualitative research integrate more subjective human experience rather than purely objective external reality. So this qualitative research belongs to the school of constructivism and interpretism, right? So in contrast with quantitative research, it is because the data is much more objective and quantified. It is from the school of positivism. The goals of investigation of qualitative research is to understand, describe, and discover meaning. In contrast, the quantitative is to predict, control, confirm, and test hypotheses. So in terms of the design characteristic, the qualitative research is flexible, evolving, and emergent. However, quantitative is structured and predetermined, and it can be planned before research is being conducted. And the data collected, normally, the researcher is considered as instrument in qualitative research. The researcher is the primary instrument because the researcher bring his or her perspective to the selection and meaning of the data. On the other hand, data collection for quantitative research use external instrument like tests, questionnaires, in surveys, and they are quantify in and quantify. It's not is objective, right? So in terms of the data collection. So this is the differences, some of the differences of between qualitative and quantitative. And we have to also know the characteristics of qualitative research, because with this, then we know why we select this qualitative research. In terms of the research problem, the research problem evolves as understanding of the research context and participant deepens. Normally, in qualitative research, the research problem, they avoid stating hypotheses before data are collected. And the manipulation of context, the researcher had no control in the context. Context is not controlled or manipulated by researcher. The types of data collected is non-numerical, narrative, and visual data. So it's not numbers, it's all text or narrative or visual data. To some student, a postgraduate student, they are like, they fear that this is about qualitative, because without numbers, they feel that their study is not a study. They think that with numbers is considered research. So that's why most masters program student, they avoid doing qualitative research. But PhD, it's only few, right? So because of the effort to understand the participant perspective, it requires researchers to interact extensively, you know, and then so the sample size is small, right? And the research procedures relies on categorizing and organizing data into patterns to produce a descriptive narrative synthesis. So the data are analyzed inductively, and the participant interaction is very extensive because researchers spend a great deal of time with participants and are immersed in the research setting. And finally, underlying belief in qualitative research, meaning is situated in a particular perspective or context that is different from people or groups. Therefore, the world has many meanings. So there is not only one meaning, many meanings in qualitative research. And the next one is classification of qualitative research, or some books or authors refer to types of qualitative research or approaches to qualitative research. The first one is case study, which is widely used. Focus on the exploration of phenomena that occur within a bounded system. Example, you want to study a case of a person, a case of event, or a case of a program, or a case of life cycle. So what are the characteristics of this particular entity, phenomena, or person, right? So the next one, ethnography, is also quite widely used. Focus in depth on groups' cultural pattern and perspective to understand participants' behavior and their context. So what are the cultural patterns and perspectives of this group, and it is in its natural setting. Narrative describes lives of individuals. So how different humans experience the world around them. Normally, narrative is like storytelling, right? The next one, ethology, examine the multiple cultures compared to one another. How do the origins, characteristics, and culture of different societies compare to one another? And ethnomethodology, examine people's understanding of daily activities. So this is how do people make sense of their everyday activities in order to behave in socially accepted ways, right? So these are other classification of qualitative research: grounded theory, phenomenology, symbolic, and also historical research. Grounded theory, derived theory using multiple steps of data collection and interpretation that links action of participant to general social science theories, or work inductively to arrive at a theory that explains a particular phenomenon. How is an inductively derived theory about a phenomena grounded in the data in a particular setting? So how the data can be linked to the theory. So this is a grounded theory, the types of qualitative research. Another one is phenomenology. Ask about the meaning of the experience of this participant. What is the experience of an activity or concepts from this particular participant's perspective? Symbolic interaction looks for common understandings that have emerged to give meaning to participant interaction. So how do people construct meanings and share perspective by interacting with others? Historical research seeks to understand the past by studying documents, relics, and interviews. This is how does one systematically collect and evaluate data to understand and interpret past events. So this is all about what is qualitative research. Now we go to why. Why do you want to conduct qualitative research? Just now, I have also mentioned that qualitative research is to gain a deep understanding of specific organization or event rather than surface description of large sample of population. So the sample is small sample because qualitative method give actually a unique depth of understanding which is difficult to gain from a closed-ended question. Respondents are able to freely disclose their experiences, thoughts and feelings without constraint in qualitative research. And normally, qualitative method offer a dynamic approach to research where researcher has an opportunity to follow up or probe questions, right? So this is the good part of qualitative research. If you ask questionnaire, you cannot probe more questions, and the answer is, or the response is just maybe through the skills that are provided. To the next one, why we conduct qualitative research is to understand how the participant derive meaning from their surroundings and how their meaning influence their behavior. So although quantitative data like the facts, figures, are undoubtedly useful, but this quantitative data using questionnaire doesn't answer the why part, right? So this is where qualitative research is important. As a respondent, they have the opportunity to freely elaborate their answers, right? And how? So how include there are many about how to but I just choose 3 about the process, the data collection, the analysis. The process is similar, either quantitative or qualitative. That is starting by identifying a research problem or topic, reviewing literature, selecting the participants, collecting data, analyzing and interpreting data, and finally, reporting and evaluating research. However, there must be certain differences in the process, although the steps is the same. For example, identifying research problems, here in qualitative research is an exploratory and understanding oriented. So often the initial topic is narrowed to be more manageable because it's more on understanding certain people or certain event. So the topic must be narrowed, manageable. And for reviewing literature, normally literature plays a minor role. Researcher need to justify for the research problem and examine existing research to identify useful information and strategies for carrying out the study. So don't worry about sometimes you cannot find related literature to support the study, but indirectly literature can be used, right? Selecting the participants. Participants are purposely selected, not randomly selected. So So that's why the size is small, right? Collecting data. So data is collected through like interviews, observation, artifacts, or diary records, and so on, right? Analyzing and interpreting data, right? Normally analyze the themes and general tendencies and provides interpretation of data. So this is where normally postgraduate students stuck at this stage because they have a lot of abundance of data and they don't know what to do with the data. So, and finally, reporting and evaluating research, where researcher need to summarize and integrate the qualitative data in narrative and visual form. So the report should be detailed description of the study that includes the voices of the participants. Not only the participant, but it also include the description of the role of the researcher and his or her bias preferences concerning the research topic on research processes. So normally the report is also like a story. So when you read the report, it's like it's a narrative story, and you don't feel it. If you enjoy reading it, it's then you achieve your goals as a qualitative research. And the data collection methods, there are many ways: interviews, observation, document analysis, recording, and others. But the first four is the most common. And interviews involve formal structured, informal structured, and also unstructured, right? Observation, it can be participant observation, non-participant observation, where participant observation where the researcher are involved. Non-participant observation, they are just a passive, right? So document analysis, there are journals, files, student works, diary records, samples of student works. So this is all document analysis. Like in education, we also analyze like teachers' lesson plan and so on. Recording, we can use audio and video. And for audio, if half an hour recording, it will take to about 7 to 8 hours of transcribing the data. And questionnaire, normally questionnaire is open-ended questionnaire in qualitative research. It's not structured. And analysis. Analysis, the purpose of analysis involves summarizing data in a dependable and accurate manner. Occurs before data collection is complete. That means the analysis is ongoing. It cannot wait until you complete collecting the data. The steps in analyzing is cyclical, iterative process of reviewing data for common topics or themes, reading or memoing, describing where is going on in the setting, and classifying research data. And strategies, identifying themes, coding, mapping, matrices, charts, etc. So how to present the data. Interpretation, based heavily on the connection, common aspect and linkage among the data pieces, categories and patterns. So these analysis involve preparing and organizing data, reducing data into themes, and presenting data in narrative and graphic form. So this is where normally postgraduate students have problem, right? And takes long time to finish. The issues of validity, reliability, and also generalizability of in qualitative research is also important, right? The validity, the terms, some in some books or some authors refer to credibility, trustworthiness, dependability, conformity. But I follow this reference that I go grade. This is the validity is means the degree to which the qualitative data accurately gauges what we are trying to measure. It means that whether the data reflects what they have what they are intended to measure. And there are two common terms in validity, that is trustworthiness and understanding. So the trustworthiness, right? Normally, qualitative researchers can establish this trustworthiness of their research by addressing credibility, transferability, dependability, and confirmability, right? So this credibility, taking into account all the complexities in the studies and addressing problems that are not easily explained. So normally, the strategies that researcher did is they do prolonged participation at the study site, or maybe they do persistent observation, do peer debriefing, practice triangulation, or do members check for credibility. So that's how to get the validity for this. For transferability, including descriptive context relevant statements, so the reader can identify the setting, identify with the setting. So normally the strategies used here to collect detailed description data, descriptive data, or maybe develop detailed descriptions of the context. So transferability. Dependability, stability of the data collected. So some of the strategies are overlap methods, or establish an audit trial, right? And for confirmability, assuring the neutrality and objectivity of the data. So normally the strategies use practice triangulation or practice reflexity, right? So here, normally not all that is carried out in the research, in qualitative research, right? For understanding, researcher can contribute to the understanding of research by addressing this descriptive validity, interpretive validity, theoretical validity, generalizability, and evaluative validity. So don't be scared hearing all these terms. It's just a kind of validity, how to measure, how to whether the what you want to measure is measurable, right? So descriptive validity, the factual accuracy, researcher must ensure that they are not distorting anything they see or hear, or making up events based on inferences. So no inferences, it's factual accuracy. For interpretive validity, participants' perspective. So there is the researcher must interpret the participants' word or action accurately. And theoretical validity, the explanation of the phenomena being studied in relation to a theory, right? So refers to how well the researcher relates the phenomena under study to a broader theory. So the relation of the data and also the theory. For generalizability, okay, include two, internal and also external. Internal is within the community, and external is to the setting that were not studied, right? And last, under understanding, evaluative validity, which is sufficient objectivity in reporting data to avoid bias, preconceived judgment, or evaluation. So this is all kinds of validity, and there are many strategies or ways to ensure validity. But I have mentioned some just now. So this one is just to demonstrate to you there are many ways to ensure validity, right? And next one is reliability. Reliability refers to the consistency with which data measure what is being attempted to be measured over time, right? The degree to which study data consistently measure whatever they measure. So this is what reliability means. Normally, in qualitative perspective, the reliability of the techniques that researchers are using to gather data. So reliability is necessary but not sufficient characteristics. So in qualitative research, validity is the priority, right? So the next term in a qualitative research is generalizability. So in qualitative research, researchers do not generally worry about the generalizability of the data because they are not seeking ultimate truth, right? So therefore, generalizability is not applicable to qualitative research. The goal of qualitative research is to understand what is happening and why. And therefore, the power of qualitative research is the relevance of the findings to the researcher or the audience of the researcher. The terms generalizability is refer to applicability of the findings to the setting. For example, from small group to large groups. That is what it means by generalizability, right? So after hearing all these terms and concepts, is qualitative research right for your study? Whether you are doing a postgraduate report or whether you are applying for a grant, you have to consider first, you have to consider the nature of the phenomena you want to study. So how do you know qualitative research is right for your study? What kind of phenomena you plan to study? Is it related to human experience that cannot be expressed in numbers? So you have to consider this. The second is to determine what you want to know about the phenomena. So what do you want to know about the phenomena? So whether it's you want to ask it to interviews, observation, or maybe that you follow the participants, you know. And then the third question, you must why are you doing the study? You must be clear about your goals. Then only you can choose qualitative research. If you can answer these three questions, then the qualitative research is right for you. But normally, in my experience, I prefer to do a mixed method where we collect data from quantitative using questionnaire. After getting responses, then we follow up, we complement with qualitative research using interviews or observation. So, thank you.